Welcome to my channel, Value Old Coins. Here you'll find videos about rare, valuable, and interesting coins from around the world. Watch the videos, learn about coin history, coin values, and unique facts you won't find anywhere else. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. It really helps us grow and bring you even more amazing coin content. Thanks for watching. Let's get started. The United States of America 5-cent coin dated 1941, widely recognized as a Jefferson nickel, stands as a fascinating piece of American numismatic history, rich in artistry, symbolism, and historical significance. Struck at a time when the world was on the brink of all-out war, the coin serves not only as a circulating medium of exchange, but also as a silent witness to the anxieties and hopes of a nation preparing to enter World War II. The design of the Jefferson nickel had been introduced only a few years earlier, in 1938, replacing the Buffalo nickel, and it featured the winning design of artist Felix Schlag, whose concept combined a portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse with a depiction of his beloved Virginia home, Monticello, on the reverse. By 1941, the design had already become familiar to the American public, and it carried with it deep cultural and political meaning. Jefferson, as author of the Declaration of Independence and the nation's third president, embodied freedom, intellectual progress, and Republican ideals, while Monticello represented not only his personal legacy but also the architectural embodiment of democratic balance and Enlightenment thought. The obverse of the coin is dominated by a stately left-facing bust of Jefferson, modeled on classical portraiture but softened to reflect the ideals of the American Republic. His gaze is forward, symbolizing progress and leadership, with carefully rendered details in his hair and clothing that reward close inspection. Along the left rim is a bold national motto, "In God We Trust," which by this time had already become a hallmark of U.S. coinage, reflecting the country's long-standing reliance on divine providence in times of both peace and conflict. On the right side of the obverse, curving neatly around Jefferson's profile, is the word liberty, a reminder of the foundational principle on which the United States was built, followed by the year of issue, 1941, anchoring the coin in its specific historical moment. These inscriptions are placed with balance and symmetry, reinforcing the coin's classical dignity. The reverse side is equally important, presenting Schlag's depiction of Monticello, Jefferson's plantation estate near Charlottesville, Virginia, which he designed himself in the neoclassical style he admired from his studies of European architecture. The coin shows Monticello fronton, with its iconic dome, central portico, and balanced wings, a symbol of Jefferson's love of order and Enlightenment ideals. Above Monticello is inscribed the phrase E pluribus unum, meaning out of many, one, the Latin motto of the United States that celebrates the union of the states into a single nation. Directly below the mansion is the word Monticello itself, clearly identifying the building, followed by the denomination 5 cents. Along the bottom curve of the coin is the full name of the issuing nation, United States of America, anchoring the design with patriotic clarity. This arrangement gives the reverse a balanced, architectural feel that mirrors the symmetry of Monticello itself. The edge of the coin is plain, without reading, a feature consistent with all Jefferson nickels of this era. From a technical perspective, the 1941 nickel was struck in the standard composition of 75% copper and 25% nickel, a silvery gray alloy chosen for its durability and resistance to wear. The coin weighs 5 grams and measures 21.2 millimeters in diameter, with a thickness of about 1.95 millimeters, proportions that have remained unchanged for most of the Jefferson nickel's history. This alloy composition is significant because the following year, in 1942, the U.S. Mint altered a formula to conserve nickel for wartime use, producing the so-called war nickels of 1942 to 1945, which included silver, manganese, and copper. Thus, the 1941 nickel represents the final full year in which the Jefferson nickel was struck entirely in its traditional copper-nickel composition before wartime changes. In terms of mintage, the 1941 Jefferson nickel was produced in enormous numbers, reflecting both America's growing economy and the need for abundant coinage during the early war years. The Philadelphia Mint struck over 203 million pieces, the Denver Mint produced around 53 million, and the San Francisco Mint added another 43 million, bringing the total mintage to over 300 million coins. Philadelphia coins carry no mint mark, while Denver issues feature a small D and San Francisco issues an S, both placed to the right of Monticello on the reverse. Because of these high mintages, the 1941 nickel is not particularly rare in circulated condition, and many examples still survive in pocket-worn states. However, coins preserved in uncirculated condition, with sharp strikes and full details, especially on Jefferson's hair and Monticello steps, are far scarcer and more desirable to collectors. Proof versions were also struck in Philadelphia for collectors, and these are particularly admired for their sharpness and mirrored surfaces. Historically, the 1941 nickel occupies a unique place in American coinage. It was struck during the last year before the United States officially entered World War II following the attack on Pearl Harbor in December of that year. For this reason, the coin can be seen as both a continuation of pre-war normalcy and as a token of a country on the brink of vast transformation. The imagery of Jefferson and Monticello resonated with Americans as symbols of freedom and resilience, ideals that would soon be tested in global conflict. Unlike the silver and gold coins of earlier times, which often carried intrinsic value, the nickel was a purely practical coin, embodying the shift of American money toward modern convenience, durability, and mass production. For collectors today, the 1941 Jefferson nickel remains a cornerstone of mid-20th century U.S. coinage. While common in lower grades, it carries historical weight and aesthetic appeal. High-grade mint-state examples, particularly those showing full details on Monticello steps, a feature known as full steps, command premium interest, as do proof specimens from Philadelphia. The coin's value also increases if it remains free from the blemishes, scratches, and discoloration that so often affect older base metal coins. To numismatists, the 1941 nickel is more than its face value. It is a tangible artifact of Jefferson's enduring legacy, America's ideals of liberty and unity, and the nation's condition at a critical turning point in history. Would you like me to continue by giving a paragraph-by-paragraph deep expansion on the broader Jefferson Nickels series from 1938 to 1945, so the 1941 issue is placed in a full historical arc, almost like a numismatic essay? Or should I keep producing expanded, long-form descriptions focused only on individual years? The United States of America 5-cent coin dated 1980D, commonly known as a Jefferson nickel, is a small but important artifact of modern American coinage history, representing continuity in design, tradition, and symbolism across the decades. Though issued nearly 40 years after its introduction in 1938, the Jefferson nickel had by 1980 become a deeply familiar sight to every American, having been produced continuously without interruption. Its obverse still carried the distinguished image of Thomas Jefferson, the third President of the United States and author of the Declaration of Independence, while its reverse displayed his beloved home, Monticello, in Charlottesville, Virginia. Struck at the Denver Mint, as indicated by the small D mint mark placed to the right of Monticello on the reverse, the 1980D nickel is part of the vast circulation coinage of the late 20th century, when billions of coins were struck annually to support a growing economy and robust commercial life. On the obverse, Jefferson's portrait face is left in dignified profile, a design created by Felix Schlag in 1938. Jefferson's hair is tied back in the 18th century style, with a high forehead and resolute gaze that conveys both intellect and leadership. The motto, "In God We Trust," appears prominently along the left rim, a national declaration of faith that has adorned U.S. coins for generations. To the right of Jefferson's chin and extending around the rim is the word liberty, followed by a small star separator, and then the date of issue, 1980. These inscriptions, balanced on either side of Jefferson's bust, create a symmetrical and classical appearance. By 1980, this design had been used for over 4 decades, and though some critics had called for modernization, its endurance reflected Americans' attachment to Jefferson's legacy as a symbol of freedom, democracy, and Republican values. The reverse is dominated by Schlag's rendition of Monticello, Jefferson's neoclassical estate and architectural masterpiece. The image captures the building's low dome, central portico, and symmetrical facade, reflecting Jefferson's admiration for Roman and Renaissance forms. Above Monticello, along the upper rim, is the Latin motto E pluribus unum, meaning out of many, one, which emphasizes the unity of the states within the federal system. Just beneath the building is the name Monticello, clearly identifying the structure for the public. Below this is a denomination 5 cents, and along the lower rim runs the inscription United States of America. To the right of Monticello, just between the right-hand steps and the rim, is a small D mint mark, signifying that the coin was struck at the Denver Mint. The reverse design is both architectural and symbolic, presenting Jefferson's personal world as an emblem of national identity. From a technical perspective, the 1980 D nickel conforms to the modern standards of the Jefferson Nickels series. It is struck in a copper-nickel alloy, composed of 75% copper and 25% nickel, which gives the coin its silvery appearance and durability for circulation. The coin weighs 5 grams and has a diameter of 21.2 millimeters, with a plain, smooth edge. By 1980, this alloy had been the standard for Jefferson Nickels since their introduction, except for the wartime silver nickel struck between 1942 and 1945. The consistency of the composition demonstrates the stability of American coinage practices, with the nickel serving as a reliable and durable medium of small value exchange in everyday commerce. The mintage of the 1980 D Jefferson nickel was immense, reflecting the large production runs of the late 20th century. Over 657 million nickels were struck at the Denver Mint that year, ensuring that the coin circulated widely across the country. With such a high mintage, the coin is not considered rare by collectors, and most examples today can still be found in circulation or in rolls of coins from banks. Circulated specimens are extremely common, bearing the scratches and wear of everyday use, while uncirculated examples, especially those with sharp strikes and lustrous surfaces, are more collectible, though still widely available given the massive production numbers. From a historical standpoint, the 1980 D Jefferson nickel represents America during a period of economic and cultural change. The year 1980 saw high inflation, energy crises, and political shifts with the election of Ronald Reagan in November, marking the beginning of a new era in American politics. Yet the nation's coinage remained stable and familiar, with the Jefferson nickel continuing its unbroken production run. This stability in coin design and use underscored a sense of continuity amidst changing times, as millions of Americans carried Jefferson's portrait in their pockets, often without thinking of the history and meaning behind the imagery. For collectors and historians, the 1980 D nickel is valuable not for its scarcity but for its place in the broader narrative of American coinage. It demonstrates the longevity of Felix Schlage's design, which had endured without major modification for more than 40 years, and it reflects the enormous scale of modern U.S. mint production. Collectors often seek high-grade mint state examples, particularly those graded MS-65 or higher, or specimens with exceptional strike detail on Monticello steps, a feature known as full steps. Such coins, while not rare, can command premiums over face value, especially when preserved with full original mint luster. Proof sets from 1980 were also struck at the San Francisco Mint, but Denver's role in producing circulation coins made the 1980 D one of the most common nickels of the era. Ultimately, the 1980 D Jefferson nickel is a small but enduring piece of Americana. It represents continuity with the past through Jefferson's image in Monticello, while also symbolizing the adaptability of the United States as it faced the challenges of the late 20th century. Though billions of Jefferson nickels have been minted since 1938, each individual coin is a tangible link to the legacy of liberty, unity, and national identity expressed in its inscriptions, "In God we trust," "Liberty," and "E pluribus unum." The 1980 D is not a rare treasure locked away in vaults, but rather a democratic coin for the people, serving faithfully in commerce while quietly carrying forward a memory of Jefferson and the ideals of the nation he helped to found. The United States of America 5-cent coin dated 1994 P, widely known as the Jefferson nickel, is a circulating coin that carries both historical continuity and a cultural symbolism that has been embedded in U.S. coinage for decades. Although it is a modern coin struck for everyday commerce, it represents the enduring story of the Jefferson Nickels series, which had already been in production for more than half a century by 1994. The obverse displays a distinguished bust of Thomas Jefferson, America's third president, principal author of the Declaration of Independence, and one of the most intellectual and influential founding fathers. The reverse depicts Monticello, Jefferson's self-designed neoclassical estate in Charlottesville, Virginia. This combination of portrait and architecture had by the 1990s become one of the most recognizable images in American coinage, unchanged in its essential form since its introduction in 1938. The presence of the small P mint mark on the reverse, to the right of Monticello, indicates that this coin was produced at the Philadelphia Mint, a facility that by the late 20th century had become the nation's leading producer of coins for circulation. The obverse of the 1994 P. Jefferson nickel remains loyal to Felix Schlage's original design from 1938, though over the decades a portrait had undergone subtle modifications and refinements to improve clarity, relief, and striking quality. Jefferson's bust faces left, showing his prominent features, tied back hair, and a slightly contemplative expression, with his shoulders depicted in a stately fashion. To the left of the portrait appears a national motto, "In God We Trust," a long-standing feature of U.S. coins that reflects the nation's enduring acknowledgement of divine providence. Along the right edge of the coin runs the word Liberty, rendered in a graceful script and separated by a small 5-point star from the date 1994. These inscriptions balance the design while underscoring the essential principles of faith and liberty that have always been central to American identity. By 1994, this obverse had become not only a tribute to Jefferson but also a familiar, almost comforting symbol of American small change, circulating widely in commerce. The reverse presents the classic front view of Monticello Jefferson home, rendered with architectural symmetry. The coin captures the central portico and shallow dome, flanked by balanced wings, giving the building a monumental appearance despite its modest scale. Above the dome is a time-honored motto, E pluribus unum, meaning out of many, one, which serves as both a philosophical statement of unity and a declaration of national purpose. Directly beneath the mansion is the name Monticello, clearly identifying the structure, and below that appears a denomination 5 cents. Along the bottom rim of the coin is a full national designation, United States of America, tying the imagery firmly to the issuing authority. To the right of Monticello's steps sits the small P mint mark, signifying the Philadelphia Mint. This placement of the mint mark had been a standard feature since 1968, when the mint resumed placing mint marks on coins after a brief suspension during the 1960s coin shortage. From a technical standpoint, the 1994 P. Jefferson nickel adhered to the long-established specifications of the series. It was struck in a copper-nickel alloy composed of 75% copper and 25% nickel, a durable mix that gives the coin its silvery gray color while remaining resistant to wear and tarnish. The coin has a standard weight of 5 grams, a diameter of 21.2 millimeters, and a thickness of about 1.95 millimeters. Its edge is plain, lacking reeding, which has been consistent throughout the history of the Jefferson nickel. The durability and familiarity of this coin made it indispensable in everyday transactions during the 1990s, when vending machines, parking meters, and countless small purchases still heavily relied on nickels and other minor denominations. The mintage of the 1994 P. Jefferson nickel was extraordinarily high, reflecting the scale of U.S. mint production in the late 20th century. More than 722 million pieces were struck in Philadelphia alone, making it one of the most common dates of the series. With such an enormous mintage, the 1994 P is readily available in circulation to this day, and circulated examples bear the typical wear of their years of service, including flattened details on Jefferson's hair and Monticello steps. While common in worn condition, uncirculated examples displaying sharp strikes and strong luster are popular with collectors. Special attention is given to coins showing full clarity on Monticello steps, referred to as full steps nickels, which are scarcer because the fine lines of the steps are easily lost due to weak strikes or die wear. Such coins can command premiums despite the overall abundance of the date. In terms of historical context, the 1994 P nickel belongs to a transitional period in American coinage. The Jefferson design had been in continuous use since 1938, and while it remained widely accepted, there were growing discussions in numismatic circles about modernizing U.S. coinage to reflect a new era. Indeed, only a decade later, beginning in 2004, the Mint would issue the Westward Journey series, temporarily replacing the Monticello reverse with designs commemorating the Lewis and Clark expedition, before returning to a redesigned obverse portrait of Jefferson in 2006. Thus, the 1994 issue represents one of the final decades of the classic Schlage design in its long, unbroken run. For collectors and historians, the 1994 P. Jefferson nickel is not rare but carries significance as part of the broader tapestry of U.S. coinage. Its abundance makes it accessible to beginning collectors, while its potential for high-grade and full-step specimens provides a challenge for specialists. Proof versions of the 1994 nickel, struck in San Francisco with mirrored fields and frosted designs, offer an even sharper representation of the design, though those carry an S mint mark rather than the P of Philadelphia. For those studying American coins, the 1994 P stands as an emblem of stability and tradition in U.S. numismatics, bridging the era between the mid-century standard designs and the modern commemorative spirit of the 21st century. Ultimately, the 1994 P Jefferson nickel is more than just a piece of small change. It is a continuation of an American coinage tradition, a reminder of Jefferson's enduring legacy, and a symbol of national values encapsulated in its inscriptions: "In God we trust, liberty, and e pluribus unum." Though billions of such coins circulate unnoticed in pockets and cash drawers, each one carries within it a story that stretches back to the founding of the Republic, through decades of minting tradition, and into the present, where it still quietly serves as a durable and faithful representative of American history and ideals in miniature.